All right, welcome to season three of H3 Conversations. So this will be a fun one. I've got four guys who I've known for multiple years who have just finished their first year in college, and I thought it might be a good idea to get the four of them on camera, talking a little bit about their first semester experiences and what might have been a little different than what they expected. I want to hear about their successes, and I want to hear about the things that were difficult this semester. So here's how we're going to do this. We're going to have each of these guys kind of introduce themselves, tell us who you are, where you are from, and where you go to school, and the go-to meal that you have when you come home and your dad or your mom is cooking dinner for you. All right, after you've been away for a semester. So first guy I'm going to kick this over to is Tanner Shadle.
All right. Well, my name is Tanner Shadle. Thank you for introducing me. I am from Virginia Beach, and I am at ODU. And my go-to meal when I'm home is just steak and potatoes.
Oh, God, that sounds so good. All right. I think the next person that I met was Nate, if I'm not mistaken. So, Nate, I'm going to go to you next.
Hi guys, I'm Nate Jensen. I'm from Virginia Beach, and I go to school at Chapman University. That's out in Southern California. When I come back home, I like some tacos.
Oh, that sounds good. How was the weather when you left Southern California?
When I left coming back here, I left going out there.
No, when you left to come back here, how was it? Was it nice?
So we had a connector in DC, and you know that little part where you get off the plane and you walk into the terminal. That was pretty cold. I mean, it was definitely a shock.
You weren't quite ready for it. That's funny. All right, Pat, you're next.
I'm Patrick Niss from Northern Virginia. I go to Gardner Webb, and I said my favorite meal was a Salisbury steak with some
Hey,
gravy on the top.
for those of from my Northeast clients who've never heard of Salisbury steak, Pat, what is a Salisbury steak?
I don't even know. It's just steak, steak with some gravy on top.
All right, is it real steak?
Uh, I believe it is. I hope it
Okay, all right, that's fine. Hey, good answer, Pat. Kaz,
is.
how you doing?
I'm doing good, Jeff. How are you?
I'm all right. Where are you? You look like you're in. I don't know. Where are you?
I'm at a restaurant right now. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I'm back at Florida, back at home, and I was lucky enough to get a table outside to join this meeting because I wanted so bad. And yeah, I'm just here enjoying it.
So you're in Florida. Where?
Sarasota.
Okay, is it nice there?
It's pretty nice, yeah. Nice. Today it was like 80 with a nice breeze, perfect weather.
That
Yeah,
is
it
so
was
nice.
great. Awesome.
Kaz, where do you go to school, and what is your favorite meal when you come home?
So I didn't introduce myself. Kazuhara, from Tokyo, Japan. Uh, Currently at Wofford College, and my go-to meal is my mom's ramen. So yeah,
I would like some miho ramen. I think that sounds really, really tasty. All
amazing.
right, so here's the first question I'm going to throw, and we're going to do this in reverse order now. Okay, we're gonna do this thing. What do they call that? A snake? It's like a snake draft in fantasy football, right? Where you got to go and then you go backwards. So Kaz, tell us about the summer that led into your freshman year at Wofford College.
So JJ, our head coach, he reached out to us before the summer started, and he signed me to the NYCBL with the Olean Oilers. Um, just to I think it's a great way to kind of get into that like college environment before you actually step foot on campus. Just the amount of games you play and just being around college guys. And it was a really good experience. Just I guess being in that environment and just playing with the older guys, especially.
Were there many guys on that team, Kaz, that were entering freshmen like you, or were most guys there college guys?
Most guys there were college guys. The only guys that were entering as freshmen were the other Wofford guys.
Okay.
I think I had two other guys with me, Joey Chitla and Jack Painter. So yeah, shout out to them.
Did did you there you go. Did you guys live with host families, or what did you do while you were there?
I was actually in a townhouse. We were at Saint Bonaventure's townhouses. So we were able to stay there with I think four guys total in each room. So
Yeah.
it was actually
Yeah.
really nice. Yeah.
And how do you think that the experience that you had up there prepared you for, say, college pitching when you got to Wofford this fall?
Um, I would say it wasn't like insane to the point where it was like overwhelming, but I guess just seeing the older competition, like sometimes you see like 5-year guys just like on the mound and you're like, damn, like he's pretty old.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess that shock factor would come into play and kind of got used to that, seeing older guys on the mound and um just being comfortable and playing your game was the biggest thing for me and just having fun out there.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Pat, so I think you went off and played summer baseball too. Tell us a little bit about your summer before you went out to Gardner Webb.
Yeah, very similar to Kaz. I went up for the Ripken League. I played for the DC Grays, and I thought it was an awesome experience. I mean, I think it helped me kind of roll into the fall, just being able to see those guys all summer, older guys, like you said, learn from the other upperclassmen on my team. They just gave a lot of good tips and strategies and what I can expect, and the pitching as well, dominant pitching. But now rolling into fall and the inter squads, I've seen it, and it definitely helped a lot.
Yeah. Hey, what was your experience like living? DC is not an easy city to
Mhm.
navigate. And I think, as I recall, the DC Grays played on the east side of Washington, DC this past year. Where did you live and how did you get around to various parks, that kind
Yeah.
of thing?
Well, it's pretty complicated. The DC Grays relocated to Maryland, so it was even further than expected.
Okay.
But I mean, from Northern Virginia, I know the area pretty well, so I just came back up here, lived in the same area I'm from. It was a little bit of a commute, always in rush hour, there and back, but I enjoyed it a lot. Definitely worth it.
And you'd say, like, on general, the pitching that you saw throughout the summer, was it similar to what you saw at Gardner Webb this fall?
Very similar. A
Okay.
lot of mid-major arms, just very similar to what I saw in the fall.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, it's not, it's become more common for college baseball coaches to place their entering freshman hitters into summer leagues, but it's still not common. So, pretty
Correct.
interesting experience that you guys had. Nate,
Yeah.
what was your experience like last summer? I don't
Yeah,
remember.
so I mean, with my college, being like 3,000 miles away, any connections for freshmen, like you said, my coaches would have would be more on the West Coast.
Yeah.
And I didn't want my last summer, kind of back here, I guess, to be spent out in California. So I stayed local and played in the Tidewater Summer League.
Yeah.
And it was good competition, not to the level these guys were seeing, but I saw enough good arms to where I felt comfortable going into school for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. And Tanner, what about you last summer?
So I was injured for like the early to mid summer for the most part. I couldn't throw and I could barely swing. So I didn't really play summer ball until the back end. I got some reps in at uh with um with post ball, um
Mhm.
American Legion
Yeah.
and I also at the same time since I'm so close to ODU, I also took a summer class some of the uh, all the incoming freshmen, or at least most of the incoming freshmen.
Yeah. And that's pretty awesome. Did you what a nice way to kind of put a toe in the water to college academics, right?
Right.
What did you
Yeah.
take that last summer?
I actually, since my major is different from, or it's like, I guess it needs more credits, I had to take a different class than everyone else. I took Intro to Psychology.
Okay. Did you like
Yeah.
it?
It was all right.
Yeah.
It was a good first class, I'd say.
Yeah. I remember my intro to psych class at UVA in 1988. We had like 750 people in that class, right?
Wow.
If you wanted to hide, you could hide in the back of the auditorium. And I was one of those guys, right?
Yeah.
All right. I want you guys to think back. It's been 3 months now and a whole lot's happened, but I want you to think a little bit about the day that you either drove up to, or maybe Nate, you in the case, maybe you took a taxi up to Chapman, but that first day that you show up at campus, I want to hear kind of what you guys were thinking. Nervous, excited? A couple of you had spent a little bit of time on campus before you got there, kind of for the first fall semester, but still, when that whole student body is there, I feel like it's a different experience. I want you to tell everybody about kind of the feelings that you were feeling, and then what actually happened relative to what you thought might happen. Does that make sense at all?
Yeah.
Let's start, Pat. This time you go first.
Yeah, so I showed up. I mean, a little bit of excitement, a little bit of nervousness, but I think that's a good thing. And moved in, all the coaches very welcoming. The whole staff moved me in, helped bring stuff up from my car to my room. So that was like a great sign. And it made me feel very comfortable just being there. And then kind of gradually started to meet the guys, get into practice. And I mean, it all went well. Immediately clicked with all the guys. Enjoyed practice, had fun at practice, and kind of the nervousness started to just go away, fade. And
Yeah.
yeah, I enjoyed it.
Um, Practice start. You hit the baseball field like the first day you're on campus.
No, I mean, we all went to the baseball field, but technically that's no care, so the coaches weren't with us. And then we slowly transitioned into real practices. But for a while there, it was just hitting with the guys, meeting everyone, getting to know people.
Yeah. What was your like dormitory situation like at Gardner Webb?
So just all the freshmen are in dorms that are on campus. Only the freshmen for baseball are in the dorms. And on my floor is another set of two freshmen on the team. And then the rest of the freshmen are in separate buildings. But it was also nice knowing those guys, having them on our floor, because we grew to know them over the summer. So it was
Yeah.
definitely cool having them there.
Yeah. Yeah. Kaz, what about you?
Um, yeah, stepping foot on campus. At first I was pretty nervous, but I mean, I love all my guys in our class. Um, and the coaches, I mean, I can be more comfortable around them. They how do I explain it? They explained it pretty well. JJ explained it pretty well. It's like having an older brother in a way. The coaching staff is just so close to you, and they just feel like family already. So that's the biggest thing that I took away from being recruited into Wofford and just being in the program as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just awesome to see.
Were you nervous much when you got there? You don't strike me as a nervous type.
A little bit. I mean, I guess just the fact that I was in college. I didn't really get to talk to that with my parents because, um, both of my parents didn't go to college here. They went to college in Japan, so I couldn't really ask what college was like to my parents, and
Mhm.
that kind of made me nervous in a way. Like I didn't really have insight on like what college was like experience wise. But I got pretty comfortable pretty quick, and we had summer classes with our 2024 class, and that was we were there for like a month, so we got to kind of get into that kind of groove on campus, and that really helped a lot during the fall.
As I recall, you went and played in New York for the first half of the summer, and then you transitioned to Wofford early. When you're on a campus that frankly only has about 1,800 total students anyway, how many students are on campus for that second semester of the summer?
Not a lot. It was just the football guys and us, and the volleyball girls are there too
Okay.
for a few weeks for preseason stuff. So
Like
um
dining halls, are they open during that time? Are you eating
yeah,
out
yeah,
all the
dining
time?
dining halls were open. All the stores around were open.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, everything was there, and we kind of we grew together as a group and as a team, and I feel like that really helped us come close as a freshman class.
Yeah. Hey, to the rest of you, does it look like Pat is like laying down on a cloud? Doesn't it look kind of like Pat's on a cloud?
I'm
That's
not an
supposed to be funny. That didn't get a lot
just
of
in there.
laughter. Nate, tell us, you had a long way to go, buddy. We're going to get to Tanner in a minute, who didn't have far to go at all, but you had a long way to go. So, what were your feelings like when you? I assume you flew to Chapman.
Yes, sir. And when you're going, somewhere, when I made the decision all the way back in, fall, you have time to think about it, right? So really by the time I got to the moment I was like stepping on the plane, I had really processed it, really thought about it. So even when I got onto campus, there wasn't as much nervous energy, more excitement because I mean, everyone in this group right now, I know we all worked hard to kind of get where we are. So it's not, you're excited to see like if that work has been paying off. How do you compare to the guys next to you? Are you competitive with them and just kind of that deal. So I was just excited to get out there and yeah.
Did when you fly out there, it's different from when I know Kaz's mom dropped him off. I think his dad was there the day he went to school. But did your parents go out with you, or are you by yourself when you drop off at school in
No,
California, or
my
how's
my
that work?
parents went out with me. They helped me move in and kind of like Pat, the coaches helped us all move in and it was a smooth transition, good experience for sure.
And you ship things out, or could you carry everything that you needed on a plane?
So all of our checked bags were, bringing everything we could, and then we shipped out maybe one or two other boxes, but for the most part, everything I needed was able to get flown over there with me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Tanner, if you forgot something, you could just kind of sneak back to the house to pick it up. But tell me about your experiences.
Yeah,
I mean, again, you were on campus a little bit last summer, as I recall, kind of like Pat and
yeah.
Kaz were.
I was on campus over the summer, but I ended up so over the summer we were in the dorms, and then a cool thing that ODU baseball does is we all the baseball players live in townhouses, um, and so I got a townhouse on the street right next to ODU, with baseball players in there with me, and so I ended up moving my stuff into that house. And I will say I was severely underpacked the first day I moved in. Um, but it's all right because I came home like the next week and got everything I needed. So,
Yeah. What this would be interesting. What do you remember not having that you wish you had had?
um, more socks. I ran out of socks really quick.
Yeah. I can imagine you're going through two or three pairs of socks every day, when
Yeah.
you're all right, that's pretty cool. All right, well let's talk about academics. And I know I've gotten to know all of you pretty well, and I make fun sometimes of the academics at IMG where two of you went. But I also know that there are a lot of serious students at IMG too, and who go off to college and are very successful. But I just, when I left Danville, Virginia to go to the University of Virginia in 1988, I was a really good student who felt woefully underprepared for college. And I was laughing with you guys before we started this podcast that I finished my first semester at UVA with 8 hours and I was on academic probation. If any of you were on academic probation after your first semester, don't feel like you're the first person that's ever happened to, right? Because I did it. All right. So, Nate, let's start with you. Like, how do you feel like you were prepared for college academically? Tell us kind of what you took and how much time you're spending kind of in the books on a regular day. What does that look like for you?
For sure. So, I mean, first and foremost, my high school, Cape Henry, they did a great job preparing us. But when I got out there, the Chapman, my major is electrical engineering. So, I mean, I took somewhere around 12, 13 credits this year, maybe one or two more, but that just kind of entails your Calc 2, intro to engineering, computer science, and all that. So our fall was like situated in a way that we'd have practices Monday and Wednesday, and then we'd have these things called CATS games, which were scrimmages versus the local junior colleges, Tuesdays and Thursdays. So for practices, we'd get back to the dorms around 7:30. Uh, for the games, it would be more like 9:30, 10. So really a lot of my, studying and stuff, I like to get it done before practice. But, we all say we like to do that. A lot of the times I would end up kind of getting home, staying up a little later than I should. But I mean, going into college, it's all about, if your major's, taking up some of your time, then it's about how you allot that time, right? And if you get into bad habits with that, not only does it affect your grade, but it can definitely affect your performance on the field with sleep deprivation and, all that. So it's just kind of having a schedule, knowing what you're there for, and, kind of getting there.
Nate, when you were picking out your first semester classes, did they make suggestions for you as to what you ought to be taking, or was that kind of entirely on your own?
So that was more with the kind of the engineering department, and we have an athletic person at the school that also works with students. And the first semester they wanted me to take it a little lighter, but I didn't listen because I was like, I'm good. And it was challenging. I got through it, but it's not the worst idea to kind of first semester take it a little bit lighter. But also, with baseball being, a spring sport, you want to have enough free time in the spring so you're not, kind of clogged up there too. So it's just about finding balance.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. Tanner, what about you? How well do you feel like you were prepared for what you were studying, and maybe even just kind of walk us through what a day as an academic kid at ODU looks like?
All right. Yeah. So I feel like, also coming from Cape Henry, that I was well prepared. I took some good classes in high school that, uh, yeah, that helped me in that aspect. And as far as a day, I'll go with a Friday because I had pretty much all my classes on Friday. So in the morning, I would lift, or the team would lift, the hitters would lift at 7 a.m. And then from there, I had my intro to engineering lab at 9 to 10:30. And then from that class, I would head to my, it's funny, I took a dance class. Um,
Oh,
a lot of the baseball freshmen take a dance class just to get credits. Um, it was actually a pretty entertaining class. And then after that class, I'd probably go get lunch or like a, yeah, and I would already have eaten breakfast too, in between the lift and my first class. And then after that, um, I would have my Calc 2 class around 12:30, and then after that, I would go into we would have baseball practice. And sometimes we would scrimmage on Fridays, but usually just a practice from around like 2 to 4 or 2 to 5. I'm not sometimes a little long.
yeah. How much on average work did you have to do after practice to get ready for the next day's class load?
Um, it wasn't too much work usually. I'd say, I mean, obviously in the later weeks of the semester, it ramped up because of, finals and everything. But I mean, I would have to do at least 5 hours of study hall each week.
Okay.
And oftentimes, half the time, or like 2.5 hours out of that, I'd really just be sitting in there, not doing anything. So I'd say on average, maybe like 3 hours of work a week. Really not that
Okay.
much for me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not as much as I would have expected. Pat,
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about your day and kind of how well you felt prepared for school.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I had to adjust to was workload. Not so much the difficulty in learning, but just the workload. I don't function too well after practice, so I wanted to kind of avoid that at all costs. And a big thing for that was just establishing like a weekly routine, which
Yeah.
would be like utilizing morning gaps, utilizing Sundays, sometimes Saturdays. And that kind of set me up really well. I mean, I did fairly well to end the semester, so I think just a big thing is just utilizing gaps when you can. I mean, working after practice, you don't really get much done. I've tried. Just avoiding that, I think that's a very big thing.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah. What is your likely major, Pat?
business major.
Okay. And do you start business classes first semester, or are you just knocking out prerequisites
Mhm.
for graduation?
Yeah, they're more gen eds, English, science, psych. I took it in economics class, so I guess that might be business, but yeah,
Yeah. Did you guys have mandatory study hall?
we did not.
Okay.
I mean, our coach is super big on the team GPA. I think we've
Yeah.
won like the Big South for the past
Yeah.
couple of years for GPA. So I mean,
Yeah.
if you're failing or if something's slacking off, he'll jump on you very quick. But
Right.
if you're succeeding, you don't have to do any study hall or anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Kaz, what about you?
Yeah, speaking of the coaches jumping on you, JJ, Coach Edwards, our head coach, it was the first week of school, and he got an email from my professor saying that um it was likely that I would potentially fail the class because I missed a few quizzes, and it was not a great start at all. He brought me into the office and he stared at me for like 8 seconds, like just a blank stare. And he was like, Kaz, I just don't get it. And then I was like, oh, damn, like I'm in a rough spot here. But yeah, that really locked me in academically. Especially before coming in, I felt like I was fully unprepared. I mean, I had three classes my senior year, and it was probably the easiest classes I could have taken, to be honest. And then you look at Wofford, and it's the heart, like quote unquote Harvard of the South, and I was just I was in a rough spot. I was like, I don't, we'll see how this goes, but just really applying myself um into my schoolwork, and study hall helped a lot too. JJ put me in study hall every Tuesdays and Thursdays. Um, and it actually it was very useful. I've never applied myself to school in the way that I did this semester. Utilized the library, just being smart with my time management was a big one too. So, just getting work done, whether it's homework for the next week or just studying for a final. It was such a big thing of knocking it out early because you would be in a rough spot, and if you forget it, your coach would call you into the office and rip you apart. So you don't want to do that your first week, and that's yeah. So
Not to throw too much shade on IMG, but I've been down there a lot with you guys, and you've shown me all around campus, and never once have I ever heard one of you say, "Hey, coach, there's the library. We spend a lot of time over there." Does IMG even have a library?
Do it.
yeah, we do, Pat.
All right,
We have this
yeah.
like we have this small little library in like in the academic building. It's not really like a big library, but there's a bunch of books in there, and yeah,
Yeah,
we never really went in there.
There's some
I,
books in there.
I do know where the academic building is. Hey, when you said you missed a few quizzes, does that mean you didn't show up for the quizzes? Does that mean you just
So
didn't do well on the quizzes? What does that mean?
I wasn't able to explain this to JJ because he didn't want to hear anything that I was gonna say. He just got on
He's
me.
going to listen to this, so he'll hear it this time.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. So I actually switched out of my LIBA class because I didn't like my first one. Professor just wasn't a good fit. When I switched, my I don't know if I should say this, but that my first thought of the class I switched into was like I shouldn't have switched. Because professor was pretty strict on everything. I mean, I love her now. She's awesome. She's great. I love the class. It was a great class. Um, but yeah, so when I switched into the new class, there was a quiz due. There were two quizzes due. It was like the day after I switched in, and I was still trying to like navigate like our school website, and apparently I missed the due date for the quiz. And to be fair, I did get like a 2-day extension, which I also missed because I didn't check my email. So that was completely on me. remember to check your email because that's one thing coach will get on you for. Um, but yeah, after that mistake, it was just full go academically. I mean, they would see me in and out of the library. I'd be in study hall knocking some work out, and I'd be studying in the locker room. Like I feel like I was really locked in there after that incident. So yeah, yeah.
There you go. All right. First semester is not easy. It doesn't matter whether you come from Cape Henry or IMG or GW Danville or wherever you come from. There is an adjustment period, right? And when you are on your own and you aren't showing up for 8 straight hours of classes every day, it just takes some discipline. I would say, and we'll get to that in a little bit, but I think that's one of those attributes that most kids probably underestimate. All right, let's talk. I want to touch on two more subjects. I want to talk about kind of social things around school, and I want to talk about baseball. So let's go to the social parts of it. And when I say social, most people think about, what is my social life going to look like? What are the parties going to be? That kind of thing. And certainly that can be part of it. Although I want the G-rated versions of this, Kaz. All right. But when I talk about social with baseball players or other athletes who will go off to college, I'm talking about things like the place where you're going to live and how you're going to live in your community. And your community is on your campus, but Nate, like you're learning to live in Southern California, and Pat, you're learning to live in a place called Boiling Springs, North Carolina, right? Like it's different, and your campus is part of that, and the community around your campus is part of that, and the weather is part of that. Nate, I'd just love you to talk a little bit about like what it was like. I mean, you lived in a city and you moved to a city, so it wasn't like you were a fish completely out of water, but it's still a big deal. So, how do you feel like you adjusted socially to what you experienced at Chapman?
For sure. And I mean, going from Virginia Beach to Southern California, it's definitely an adjustment. And if you're just talking like, where you're living and that kind of culture, I guess, like, you go in there and you just try to learn from it, you try to take from it, you try to see what you like about it, and then you take those parts, and that's kind of the social part you enjoy, right? And I mean, when you're talking about the social aspect in terms of where you're living, I wouldn't. It can be a big deal for, some people. I'd say first and foremost, make sure the school wants you or you like the school, the coaches want you, because that goes before that. Because I feel like you can go anywhere, and if you'll be able to find stuff about the place you're living in that you like. And then on the other social aspect of it, like the parties and all that stuff, the way I look at it is you have three things to balance, right? You have sports, you have school, and then you have, that social life. And a lot of people say, you got to pick two and sacrifice one. And to a certain extent, that's very true, especially once you get later in the year with, finals and whatnot. But early in the year, you can definitely enjoy, the social life of it. Just make sure you don't get too caught up in it. Don't make sure it doesn't take you away because, for a lot of the NARPs, or I mean, the regular kids that just go to school there, they go there and, they'll be dropouts after the first year, especially at my school, because they will just get caught up into it. So, I mean, it's just, dip a toe in the water, feel it out, enjoy it, but, remember why you're there, especially if you're a student athlete. I mean, you're there to play baseball. A lot of us probably wouldn't be going to the schools we're going to right now. Me for certain, if it wasn't for baseball. So, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at on it.
That's awesome. Great job, Nate. Tanner, what about you?
Yeah. So, I mean, of course, there are going to be parties at anywhere you go, and as far as the baseball team, I'd say we more just hang out with each other, like maybe play some cards or meet at like the baseball house. Some of the older guys will go out and whatnot, but not old enough for that. So,
Yeah.
and being in a house, I'd say a big difference is like I don't have a bunch of other freshmen around me. In fact, I had none. I was the only freshman in my house. So I had older pitcher, older hitter. His, coming from, I want to say, NC State. And then I had another guy who's also a position player, who's from Utah, and I'm pretty sure he was like 23. Um, yeah, a wide variety of people. And for us, I'd say just like getting to know all the baseball guys. Um, that was a um, that was probably a good part of it.
Tanner, I know you take your academics serious and you're going to spend time with non-baseball players. What did Nate call them? Regular people. What was it? I mean, people need to know, Nate. Come on, what is it?
NARPs, non-athletic
NARPs?
regular people, NARPs.
Non-athletic regular people. Okay. That probably isn't fair to all of the regular people out there. Some of them might be super athletic, but anyway, Tanner, what percentage of your non-classroom time was spent with baseball players versus non-athletic regular people, or even athletes from different sports? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would say 90% of the time was just with other baseball players.
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes, I mean, honestly, I can't even really think of much. Like it's not like I would study alone too, because none of the baseball players are in the same classes as me. Other than dance, and I don't really need to study with anyone with dance. So majority of the time, I'm just hanging out with baseball guys.
Did you need to dance with other people? You didn't need to study with them, but like, did you need to practice with some of your teammates?
No, we wouldn't have to dance outside of class.
Yeah.
But there were days where we did dance in class.
Oh, that's good. Was that uncomfortable for you? You don't strike me as a guy who loves to dance in front of other people.
Yeah, slightly it was, yeah.
Do your teammates know what a gifted musician you are?
No, I don't think so.
Does Pat know how good you are with the instrument in your hand?
I don't know. Probably not.
I
Next
do
time we
not.
do this, next time we're gonna next time we do this, we're gonna put a little band together. All right, and you're the front man, Tanner. All right,
All right, I
Pat,
gotta
tell me a
start
little.
practicing.
Pat, tell me a little bit about I mean, kind of the social world in at Gardner Webb and in Boiling Spring.
Yeah, I would just say adjusting to that rural of a setting, just building relationships with your teammates is was huge. Because that's who you hang out with. I mean, that's what you go and do. Like to get to a restaurant, that's not a McDonald's. It's a little bit of a drive. It's just very secluded area. But just hanging out. Poker's big. I'm not into it, but I know probably half the team will play poker every night at some of the upperclassmen apartments. But just getting to those guys was really big.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Pat, do you feel like, I mean, that you're in a bit of a silo when you're at IMG. I mean, I know you didn't spend your whole life at IMG like some like Kaz did, but do you feel like you were pretty well prepared for kind of social life within the college setting?
I believe so. I mean, a big thing at IMG was just being able to go and hit whenever, all day, really, spending your whole day at the field. And I feel like that's also what I do at Gardner Webb. I mean, it's awesome just being able to have 24-hour access to the our weight room and our cages.
Yeah.
So I mean, our guys are really devoted. I mean, they'll be hitting the lights in the indoor will be on all night, all day.
Mhm.
So you just go up there, there'll be 10 guys hitting. You just hop in, maybe play ping pong in the facility after, sometimes go watch games at their house, but a big part of that is just being able to play baseball with them all day, even Sundays, Saturdays, all
Do
that.
a significant number of your teammates live off campus in housing off campus?
Yes, I would say about half. There's a big apartment complex about 5 minutes away. That's where majority of the team lives, and then there's two houses that a good amount live in. The rest are
Yeah,
there's on campus apartments as well for the sophomores.
yeah, yeah. Kaz, you don't strike me as ever being uncomfortable in a social setting. But I do need you to tell me a little bit about Kazuhara on a college campus. Are there posters up about you kind of around campus? Be wary of this kid when he shows up, kind of thing?
No, I'm actually not out that much. I mean, you got to understand a lot of people have to understand going into college that you're especially athletes, you're gonna be around your team like not probably 95% of the time. I mean, whether it's scrimmages, practices, whether you have classes with them. I mean, your life there in college is gonna be with your team like most of the time, and that's who you have to be most comfortable with. Um, that's who you gotta that's one thing you really got to think about going into a college. Am I like comfortable around this team? Am I comfortable around the coaches? Does it feel like home? Does it feel like family? Can I talk to them about my life problems? Can I do this and that with them? I mean, it really comes down to that. And you know, it's difficult adjusting to a place if you're really not comfortable there and if you really feel out of place. Um, because you wanna have a good college experience. You want to have lifelong friends. You want to build connections all around the world. Whether it's international or around the U.S. It's really important to have a connection with everyone, and let it be genuine
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. All right, let's talk a little bit about baseball. I think about this on a couple of different levels from, physicality, like were you prepared when you got there? You know, how were you as a player relative to your expectations? Because while you all came out of revered preparatory programs, right? Cape Henry wins a couple of state championships with you guys on the roster. IMG, it's 24/7 baseball. Um, I want to hear just kind of how well you feel like you were prepared and maybe a little bit about where you feel like you could have prepared a little bit better, if that makes sense. Pat, let's start with you this time, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so physicality wise, I mean, when we were there in the summer, we were there like Cavs for a whole month. That was the only emphasis was literally just to lift and go to class. They wanted us to be conditioned and strong, especially as freshmen. So early in the fall, we conditioned a good amount. That was big. I didn't expect that, to be honest, baseball wise. I've never conditioned too much for baseball. But I know Kaz went through the same thing. We just ran like heck to start out the fall. So just definitely being conditioned is big. I mean, there was a lot of people really struggling, even sophomores, juniors. But just being able to be ahead in that already, I think that's really important. Physicality wise, I mean, I know of several instances, not so much at my school, of just kids getting redshirted solely based off of weight. So I think it does play a major role, just being fit and heavy. Um, and then so is health. I mean, when we got into those 20-hour weeks, it was just lift, lift, baseball, baseball, and it took a toll for sure. A lot of people went down with backs and shoulders, and it was tough. So just being able to recover and eat right and do all that stuff, it sounds cliche, but it's true. It plays a massive factor.
What was the support like for people when they got hurt or sick? And there's some pressure to come back because you want to perform because
Yeah,
that's your opportunity to win a spot on the field.
right.
What was that like, support for you?
Our head coach, Jim Tester, is really big on telling them if you're hurt, you're hurt. He doesn't care. He wants you to rest. It's resting is very important. He knows that. He doesn't rush anyone back onto the field. He just makes everyone very comfortable with voicing their injuries. I think that's big. If you're hurting, just tell your coach. He understands.
Yeah.
And then our trainers are awesome as well. So you just go in there, they'll help you. I mean, they're great. I mean, they drove me to Gaston or Gastonia, like 45 minutes away when I think for an X-ray. I mean, they're just caring, and I'm sure that's the same way at a lot of different schools.
And how did you perform on the field when given the opportunity? Because I know, you know, these programs, I mean, Nate was talking about it earlier, but you're scrimmaging, whether you're playing outside competition, which you're limited to, but you kind of have unlimited opportunities to inter squad.
You do.
How did you feel prepared, and how did you do in those settings?
Yeah. I mean, the summer ball helped a good amount. It was definitely it was a struggle for most of our freshmen, for me as well. Just adjusting to their pitches, their mixes, how well they time, sit on the rubber, everything. It's just a whole different ball game. But towards the end, a lot of our freshmen heated up, just kind of getting used to that. I mean, we had plenty of opportunities. We played 3 games at home against other colleges. We went to the DR, played a bunch of teams there. I mean, we were playing a couple times a week for a little bit. And then inter squads is like 3 times a week. So you get plenty of ABs. But definitely as you go throughout the fall, if you start slow early, it's not that big of a deal. Everyone does as a freshman. They understand that. But just getting used to it and getting comfortable, sticking to it.
Yeah, yeah. Did you feel more ready offensively or defensively?
Honestly, defensively, I mean, I would speed the game up a lot in the box early on. It felt a little bit uncomfortable, but I think I felt a lot better at third. Just we took a lot of grounders even before we started playing, and I kind of it was a smooth transition for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Tanner, I remember when I first saw you and coaches would call me about you. Nobody knew if you were going to be a hitter or a pitcher at the collegiate level. I think maybe because of even just injuries, right? You've settled more into being a hitter in your first year. Is that true?
Right, yeah. Over the summer when my arm was still injured, I had a talk with Coach Hadra, and he basically just said, for this year, I'm only hitting. No need to risk because that arm injury actually stopped me from hitting for a little while, surprisingly. So he said, no need to risk, you know, my bat along with
Yeah.
my arm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you came in a little bit nicked up, but like you were an accomplished high school player. How well did you feel prepared to kind of go in and compete right away?
Yeah, I'd say physically I was fine. Coach Phil Reikoff at Cape Henry trained us well. Although I do remember being slightly unprepared for that kind of pitching, and I I was or the schedule mid fall was extremely busy, and it started wearing down, like showing on me, I think, which it was really it was pretty difficult. I was also I got pretty sick early on, which caused me to lose weight,
Mm.
and yeah, that was tough. I had a cough for probably maybe even 2 months. Um, but overall, I'd say eventually, you know, I adjusted to the pitching and started catching a few more barrels and whatnot, and in the inner squads, it got better.
Would you say that as a hitter, the velocity or off speed stuff was more of a transition for you?
I would definitely say the off speed was because the as far as speed goes, like it's just timing. But when I'm seeing a lefty with a insane spin rate slider that I just can't even touch, it's just, you know, that's the tough part.
Yeah, yeah. You were you were kind of a versatile defender at the high school level. Where have you settled in to play mostly at the collegiate level at this point?
Um, I mean, right now I'm still a utility player for the spring, but most of my, I guess, innings this fall, we did inter squads mostly, but most of my time was spent at first base this fall.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Did that have anything to do with your arm and kind of coming back or
It did, I
um
think. Yeah. My arm really wasn't even 100% until maybe the last 2 weeks of
okay.
ball. And even then, it was still didn't feel right. You know.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Kaz, tell us about you. And I know, you and I talked earlier today, and we talked a little bit about weight being a big thing for you kind of coming in, but like you got to play summer ball, so that helped you. You got to campus early, that helped you. Tell me how you feel like you were prepared coming to Wofford.
I feel like the only thing I felt unprepared for was the physicality part. I felt like, I felt like I was there for a reason, and everyone's there at their college for a reason, and you gotta continuously think that because, there's gonna be hard challenges that are thrown at you, ups and downs. I mean, baseball's a hard game, but it's only if you make it a hard game, like you always got to think playing the game you love. You just got to go out there, have fun, play loose, because that's when you play the best. And um, I mean, yeah, there's not much other than competing your ass off and just having fun with your whole team. So
Yeah, we
yeah,
can bleep that out. No worries.
I'm sorry.
If no, we're good. We're good. Hey, you came in at what? I mean, I know you may not want to say this, but you came in at what weight, and you came home at what weight?
Um, yeah, so I came in really light. I stepped on the scale. JJ was like, "What are you weighing at?" And I was like, "I don't even know what I said." And then he was like, "All right, step on the scale." And then I stepped on the scale. I said 138. He was like, "Damn." I was like, "You might have to bleep that out too. I don't know." Uh, but yeah. And then when I came home, I was able to clock in at 150, which was awesome to see.
Yeah, yeah,
From that point in the summer when I stepped on the scale to now, I feel like it's been a good progress, definitely. Just being
good.
able to put on weight in general, not really seeing a decrease, but even just like slow baby steps. That's all it takes to it's all it takes to get to the next point of where you want to be. And
Yeah,
biggest thing for me was eating like a maniac, eating everything I saw in front of me, and being consistent. Consistency is always the key for anything, whether it's working the cages or eating or stretching, everything. Everything's about being consistent with your work. So,
Kaz, did you have a nutritionist or anything at Wofford to help you with this?
um, I had our lifting coach tell me to eat more. So I did
Okay.
that. And no, actually, I didn't. I had a nutritionist at IMG, which that's one thing I regret using like more or being more consistent with is really applying myself to weight gain because we work so much. Like I'd love to get extra work in. So having to gain those extra calories was always hard for me because after practice it'd be like 5:45, 6, um, depending on when lift was, and then you'd want to get extra work in with either Keisha or Pat would be there.
Yeah,
We just in the cages, ground balls, fly balls. I mean, we work on anything. So,
yeah.
um,
How did you do performance wise this fall?
I feel like I did pretty good. Definitely sped up earlier in the fall, especially with a lot of freshmen. But um, having to slow your mind down, slow yourself down, and just going out there and having fun. I know it's easier said than done, but really just enjoying your time there and knowing that you're there for a reason, knowing that your coaches picked you for a reason, and
Mm, really
taking
good.
advantage of every opportunity and role that you have on the team is definitely a big thing to take in.
Yeah. Well, one guy who didn't mind the weight room before he got to college, Nate, tell us a little bit about kind of your transition to the game and to the weight room at the college level and just kind of your on the field successes or even struggles.
Yeah, so I mean, first off, with the on the field stuff, like a lot of these other guys, there was a transition period for sure. So our conference is called the SCIAC. It's Southern California something something. And what this conference is known for is like, I mean, these guys are really, really comfortable with the off-speed stuff. I mean, if you're in a 3-0 count and they feel like they're better off, just getting something over, they'll throw it in there like they don't care. So, I mean, that was a big adjustment to make, even with our own pitchers in the inner squad. And, also like the other guys, as the season went on, the at-bats got better. And that's kind of the big thing, is not to like lose, sight of the goal, or lose hope, right? I mean, it's going to get better. There's the adjustment period, and if you dedicate yourself to those adjustments, you will be better. And in terms of the weight room, I mean, out of high school, I was recruited as a physical guy. That was kind of like my thing. So going in there, I mean, it's definitely a pro, right? You know, unfortunately, I saw more off speed because of that, but it is what it is. But I mean, I was able to go in day one and you know, uh, pretty much dominate the weight room. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm pretty much top in, everything they got there. So it's a good feeling, but it's all about how it translates onto the field, right? So just making those adjustments and sticking with it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, guys, we've got time for basically one more question. So here's what it is. And this is a question you will be asked 100 times the rest of your life, okay? If there was one piece of advice that you guys could give to the high school players who look up to you and will continue to look up to you, they want to emulate what you are already doing. They want to increase their odds of success when they get to whatever college destination if they're fortunate enough to get there. What is that one piece of advice that you would give them? Kaz, let's start with you on this one, if you don't mind.
I'd say biggest thing, number one thing for me is time management. And check your emails. But time management definitely the biggest thing. Never have the feeling of, hey, I really have to go to this party, or like, hey, I really have to hang out with these guys. If you have a homework assignment or if you have a final that week, um, you always have to be true to yourself and say, hey, maybe I really need to do this homework. Never be afraid to say no. So always manage time wisely, whether it's school, social, academic, always get a good balance on it. Whatever you have to do, write it down on the whiteboard, write it down on your phone. Phone's a really good one. Just put it down in your reminders and hey, set an alarm for like 5 o'clock to study or get homework done. So I never thought I'd say this, but yeah, just knock out your homework. So that's the
That's
biggest
a good
thing.
one. Your parents
Yep.
would be proud of you, Kaz.
My
Tanner,
mom's
what about
probably
you?
crying right
Tanner, what about you?
Yeah, I'd say biggest piece of advice is just to stay disciplined with everything. Like sometimes, it's going to be tough. Uh, it's college baseball. I mean, everyone on this call has experienced it, I'm sure, but it's going to be tough, and you just got to stay disciplined. Sometimes you're not going to be motivated to get up at 7 in the morning, but if you don't, you're just going to have to run poles at practice. So,
Yeah.
got to get
Get
up.
up. Get up when you need to get up. Take the quiz when you need to take the quiz. I've heard that loud
That's
and
right.
clear. Pat, what about you?
I would say just absolutely hone in on the little things of baseball before you even get to college. I mean, we did hours and hours of bunting, and really no freshman know how to bunt. Kaz can agree. And then just taking the extra bag, going first to third, getting the dirt ball read, situational hitting's big. I mean, just listening, active listening to all they have to say and applying that immediately. I mean, first week of batting practice, I like didn't time up a batting practice pitch while I was on deck out of the turtle, and they got on me. I was like, oh shoot, this is real. So I mean, it's just little stuff like that that you just absolutely can't miss and just fully embrace, and that'll
Yeah.
set you up.
Your coaches for your whole life, Pat, are clapping right now that you've learned the lessons that they were yelling at you for
Yeah,
about timing pitchers up before you get
yeah,
into the batter's
yeah.
box, right? It's,
Good deal.
paying attention to the little details. I do wonder how many times you've been asked to butt your entire life before you got to Gardner Webb.
Once or twice.
Yeah,
Not,
that wouldn't be fun.
yeah, it's not a big deal
Yeah,
in high school, but it is. It is in
yeah,
college.
yeah. Nate, what about you?
I mean, yeah, this kind of more for like, I guess the high school guys, maybe even before you committed, but just before you move on to the next level, I'd, tell them to, check why you're playing the game, right? Are you
Mm,
playing the game because it's something cool to do, or are you playing the game because you want the Instagram post, the commitment post? are you playing the game because you love it? And I mean, that's why all of us are playing it, because you're going to get to a point in college, even depending on the level, like even some of the players I came in with, right? We had one or two freshmen, I mean, just flat out, quit. And you go into the game because you love the game, and you're going to get to a point where you're going to have challenges. And if you don't have something to go back onto, like a true love for that, if it's something synthetic or fake, and that's why you're playing, it's going to crumble. And then it's going to be all for nothing. So before you even get on to thinking about going to the next level, make sure you know why you're playing the game, and then you can kind of go from there.
Guys, I couldn't be more proud of you, the four of you. I guess I got to know all of you when you were 15 or 16, and this thing about playing college baseball was kind of a pipe dream, right? I mean, you were doing it maybe because, as Nate says, you love it, but maybe because you thought it was the path that was before you and it was what you were supposed to do, right? And the reality is that the four of you did what you needed to do to get where you are. And as Kaz, you've said at least twice on this call, you're here for a reason. You're in the places that you're in at this time for a reason. I don't often know why it is that I intersect with guys like you in my lifetime, but it is the blessing of my life to be able to get to know each of you and to watch you grow up. And as I'm apt to say, often you have a fan for life in me. And whatever I can do to help you guys, I hope you know that my line is always open to you. Kaz, even if I don't always answer the phone when you call me, I am there for you. You just need to let me know that you want to talk, right? So,
Yeah, it
guys,
just kind of hurts that you pick up Evan's call like 90 times, and then it's just
we're gonna bleep that one out too. So anyway, love you guys, and I hope you guys have a great holiday season. And thank you for coming on to share your stories with all the rest that will listen. All right.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good night.